monsters ever die.
And this monster starts running right at me.
Annihilated by nuclear bombs.
Beast is not dead. I put 4 bullets into him.
Oh, you're crazy.
But I saw that monster too. All I want is for someone to believe me.
Contaminated.
Face. Horrible. Look like it would scare you to death.
All right, let's get to work.
All right, so we touched on aided non-normal reality devices a little bit last week.
Yeah.
And so I have something interesting to share that's, it's I'm not going to use any names because it involves, a medical professional and some, medical techniques being performed on people that were not sanctioned. It'd be frowned upon, and they may or may not, they could or could not lose their license for us. The good news is, this was like, probably 17 years ago.
Oh, okay.
I don't even know where any of these people are. So there is a technique, a medical technique that's been researched quite a lot using, you can use electrical stimulation to stimulate muscles, right? Like those pads that you put on like a TENS unit.
Yeah.
Okay, so everybody knows about that. There's a different technique where you actually put the stimulus directly into nerve endings.
Okay.
And the purpose of this is you can actually deaden the feeling on the skin.
Oh.
Like for pain relief.
Right.
Like if somebody's suffering a major burn, you can deaden the feeling for a while you work on it. So that's part one.
Okay.
Part two is a lot of people call it the God particle. We know it as DMT or dimethyltryptamine.
Yes.
So, I'm going to start out by saying I don't advocate anybody trying this or doing this. This is something this is something that I know about because I know a lot of strange people. I've been in a lot of places. I and really Victus both are on like life number 4 at this point, as far as restarts and reruns and
right? Tell me about it.
Yeah, right. So, in a previous life, here is what was being done. So, these folks were practicing a technique with DMT that is opposed to just like laying down on the bed and doing it and having your experience. They wanted a more active experience. Really, what they were trying to do was take some pretty fringe research and put it into practice into a single thing.
Okay.
So they wanted to be able to interact in the world that they were seeing more than just seeing it or experiencing it, right? Like they described it like having powers there.
Right.
So here, I'll give you an example. So these folks would carry around a little satchel, right? A little side bag of 3 of those ball pit balls, like we used to play in as a kid, right?
Yeah.
Take them with them everywhere, all the time. Always had them. Also had this set of gloves that they carried all the time, everywhere.
Okay.
And a backpack that had, a bunch of stuff on it. Like, there were some boxes and things like that. The point was they wore it all the time to sort of integrate it and make it part of themselves, these items.
Okay. I'm starting to form an idea of what's going on here.
Okay. So here's how this technique works. You have a segregated space, right? 2 people, usually 2. It can be more, but it gets complicated. 2 people. What I've seen used are those big concrete form things, the big cardboard concrete forms.
Yeah.
All right. 2 people get inside it. You have 1 monitor outside. You have sort of a window in your side of the cylinder, right? And you can raise and lower a little door, and you have a little net out in front of it. So the way this works is you get into it, and a lot of it is part of it's pretend, right? I mean, part of it is pretending because you're getting into this mind space, like Terrence McKenna always talked about set and setting. You're setting this idea up to try to take it in with you. And so here's the idea. You're using an incredibly purified form of DMT, like having been washed down enough that it's not something most people would recognize. If any of our listeners have done it, you would not recognize it.
Right.
It's in the realm of 99.8% just DMT.
So
No
we're
odorless,
talking
colorless,
Walter White
tasteless.
level DMT.
Yeah, odorless, colorless, tasteless, because a lot of the extra alkaloids that are in the things that you take it out of influence the experience.
Uh-huh.
Like they add visual influence to the experience. So you're stripping it all the way down, and this is sort of like your Ghostbusters car in a way, right? So you get in the tube, you set it down, you have blinders on,
Okay.
and you can't see the tube, but obviously you can feel it. So it's kind of like this little invisible force field that you're carrying in with you to interact with this world. And these gloves that they're wearing all the time, they found that through, making this hard association with them all the time, they could actually begin to have visible hands in the experience.
Oh, right on.
Like that they could then use to interact. Right?
So it went from being like a VR experience that you're only viewing to a VR experience that you could interact with and being.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Both. So it went from being like a movie that you're watching to you are there and interacting.
Right.
And there's two phenomena that go along with this. One is that generally two people using DMT at the same time in proximity can often have similar experiences, especially when you've stripped it down to its purest form like this. So these two people are now having the same experience and traveling together and interacting together. And you can actually see each other's avatars in that space, like what you look like
Interesting.
to the entities that inhabit the space, presumably. So you're like, Aeon, why the pool? Why the ball pit balls? So the ball pit balls you use to actually interact and direct your motion by throwing them.
Okay.
And you can see them too. Look kind of like Kamehameha balls.
Oh, right. Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And so the last component, which I mentioned first, is this component of deadening the feeling of your skin, right? So they would these folks would use kind of like acupuncture needles, if you will.
Yeah.
But they're hooked up to an oscillating square wave current, either AC or DC. AC is kind of complicated because you end up with a cord to trip over. And you kind of need some fail safes to make sure you don't accidentally get zapped, get the crap zapped out of you if something goes wrong in the wiring. DC is easier, but AC is a little more effective because you already have an alternating current. So you have alternating square wave current, and you can modulate the intensity, the frequency, and so on. And you essentially use acupuncture points, standard acupuncture points, as well as some nerve ending points along the back, right? And so the backpack is protecting this. It's carrying your batteries, and you can strap it on you, and it feels like a space.
Ooh.
So you're getting this whole right. You're building this whole vibe around it. So some of it's theater, and some of it's real, right? Some of it's really medically induced thing, and something about the deadening of the skin. Now, you can't feel each other really, other than the pressure of your backpacks rubbing against each other once in a while, and you can't feel the cylinder other than your hands. So you've disembodied the rest of your body except for your hands, right? So that's how they're getting this like interactive thing in there, and they're doing everything from sculpting to moving things to, or at least this is what they're reporting, sculpting things, moving things, interacting with the entities that normally just see you and you see them.
Right.
They're actually interacting and having back and forth communication.
Okay.
Right.
Well.
Right. Wild. And it's not an easily recreatable thing. I mean, you can look up all the individual components of this stuff. I'm sure that there's groups out there. This is a very old technique now, but not something that most people have probably heard of, and it's pretty much relegated to the realm of DMT itself.
Right.
Research wise, because no other substance would there be anything to interact with in that way.
Right.
There's no entities, no things trying to communicate all the time. So I've even read, and I don't know about this personally, but I've even read that people have used an MRI
Mhm.
and a box and had just their hands scanned, and something about the separation of the box and having had their hands scanned, some lady had it done. She had to have her arm scanned,
Yeah.
and she happened to be a user of this stuff, and she reported that rather than having to do the whole association thing, the next time she used it, she reported having that experience where her hand that had been MRI'd
Yeah.
was visible to her now in the other side.
Interesting.
Right. All anecdotal. All
Right,
anecdotal
of
because there's
course.
not, nobody's sanctioning any real research on it.
No one's
But-
gonna want to do the
but-
science behind that one.
Yeah, right. But you could. I mean, those are all things that are very easy to test, right? None of that stuff is wild. None of it. I mean, it's anecdotal, except these people were repeating this over and over and over again. This was these were people that I knew.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't like, oh, somebody telling some wild story and they're drunk later. I mean, they would write this stuff down. They had that whole thing they were doing is, pirate science. Probably not. I mean, I would not recommend any of that, but super interesting stuff. And I thought about it when we were talking about, that the only time I've ever experienced something that was very strange was on some sort of enabling device like that once upon a time.
Right. Well,
So anyway, that's my weird story.
There's
long as hell. Long as hell. Sorry, everybody. I'm Aeon.
and I'm Victus.
Welcome to Beyond the Shadows.
Yes. Our spooky, super paranormal. Like we're not necessarily paranormal. We're just like investigators. We just look at shit. Because we've done, everything from paranormal to, say, the Somerton Man, which was true crime, essentially.
Right. Right. Weird true
but-
crime.
But we're going to try not to do too much true crime. Everybody's doing true crime right now. Everybody's got a true crime podcast.
And even the Somerton Man, like, people have done it, but it was cool that we happened to cover it after they just kind of recently solved it.
Yeah,
right?
we got-
because everybody thought it was like, paranormal or
Yeah.
maybe something else or secret, secret agency.
Yeah, we got
And-
lucky because
Yeah,
I
we
had
did.
I had listened to like 4 other podcasts about the Somerton Man because that's where I got the idea from. And it wasn't until researching that episode that I realized that they had solved it. So that was cool. Yep.
Hand gestures. Tune into YouTube.
All right, so we said it last week and we're going to do it this week. We are covering the Backrooms.
I'm
And-
so excited.
and oh
I'm
my
so
gosh.
excited. This
Okay.
is so good.
So usually I try to pull out good research on some of these things, but this one is all over the fucking place. I had trouble
That's why I'm
nailing
excited.
down. Yeah, I had trouble nailing down like a consistent storyline. But just a little spoiler, I did find the original 4chan thread for the Backrooms where it started.
Yes.
And
Because now they have a wiki
Yeah.
wiki.wiki.com
Yeah.
or whatever. Yeah.
they have,
Just like SCPs have.
yeah.
Everybody's got a wiki now.
And I did find a paragraph that does tie Backrooms into SCPs, just for you.
I figured. Good. Thank you. Because that's I was looking for that and I couldn't find that part.
Yeah, I was pretty diligent in my researching, and honestly, a lot of this today is going to be just us talking about what is going on. But
yeah.
what was your first experience with the Backrooms? Where have you heard it from to begin with?
Okay, so I thought that the very first time I heard about it was actually the video game, right?
Okay.
Which is very popular and frankly very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Great graphics and looks awesome. But I think that so the reason I'm glad you found something about them and SCPs is I think that's actually why I heard about it first.
Right.
Was people who would actually go out with, not to spoil too many things, but go out with these like ancient looking keys and try to find doorways into the back rooms. And
Yeah.
but I didn't know what they meant, and I didn't remember much about it.
Oh,
but
shit.
I remember seeing that.
Hold on, give me 2 seconds. My laptop's not plugged in. Wow.
Uh-oh. Gonna run them batteries dead.
Okay. I think I got it. Hold on. Phew. Thank God for notifications. I was like, why does this
That-
notification keep coming up? Could you hear the gloob?
No.
Okay, good deal.
So before you brought it up last week, that was all of what I knew. Now I tried to go and look some, but like you said, it is all over the place, and there is so much. And it looks like some people have taken the concept and made it into sort of like a fictional web novel.
Yeah. So
Because I'll notice, like, even in the wiki, there'll be a bunch of posts that look very consistent. Like they look like they're obviously by the same person publishing or group.
mhm.
Like backgrounds the same. And then I see other stuff that just looks like a thrown in
yeah.
thing.
So
I didn't know what to make of it.
I waded through all of the bullshit. I picked out everything that 12-year-olds didn't add. And only used 13 and up. No, I'm joking. But I did my due diligence in some of this research. Admittedly, my research is flawless. So if I'm wrong, feel free to reach out to us and let us know. Hold on, let me shoot you the email right quick. I've got it up here, but it's not in front of me. If I get this information wrong, holler at us. Let us know. We will correct ourselves. Email us at beyondshadowspodcast@gmail.com. But before we get started, I have one tiny announcement.
Oh, announcements.
Announcement. You ready?
Announcement. Yep.
We officially have over 100 plays on Spotify.
Yeah.
That's us.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Also,
you.
if you guys don't start writing us emails, we're going to start putting in stuff that we know is false. Just so you'll send us an email and complain.
Yep.
So if you want to go to the good,
Email
good
us.
stuff, you better start emailing us.
Beyond Shadows
I want
Podcast.
email. I want something. I want something.
Something.
Tell
yeah.
us like this is hair this week. Tell us something.
Yeah, I worked
Also,
hard on
it
this.
does look great.
Thank you.
It's super bright.
My hair is getting very long. I have black lights in front of me. So I actually have, I have a very bright black light right in front of me. And then
your industrial one you acquired.
And then I have one right here in the microphone.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. That makes sense.
These are my crappy little USB black lights. This is what I would take to shows.
Oh, that's cool. I like that. Oh yeah, I like that.
But back when my hair was green, this is what I did when I was streaming. Totally dark room, just a black light in front of me. So it would make all you see is really my hair and my shirt. It was fun. Anywho, yeah.
Well, mostly my nose hair is getting long. Everything else is pretty much. I'm kidding.
I'm gonna say this is not a mustache. This is nose hair.
This is all. I just comb it out. There was a Kids in the Hall thing like that, wasn't there? Where dude like lost his nose trimmer and he ends up homeless because his nose hair is all like this long beard.
I love Kids in the Hall.
Kids in the Hall.
Kids in the
God,
Hall.
we're so old.
Oh, jeez.
We're so old.
They're doing it again. It's back on the air.
Are they all on walkers? Or is it different guys?
I think it's a few of the originals and then a bunch of new guys.
Those Canadians, man.
My buddy Half, if he's listening, shout out to him because he's keeping the. He's probably one of the only other people I know that watches Kids in the Hall.
Yeah, I used to when it was on Comedy Central all the time. I
Yeah.
have not gone and tried to find it to stream though.
We used to hang out. He lived like 6-7 miles away from me when I lived in Michigan, and my dad was a piece of shit and he wouldn't give me a ride anywhere. So I either walked or rode my bicycle everywhere, and it would take me like an hour to get to him. And we would we would hang out and stay up all night long looking at videos on the internet because he's the only person I knew at internet. We'd stay up all night watching videos on the internet, watching Comedy Central, watching Cartoon Network, watching Adult Swim, watching anime, binge watching the same movie over and over and over again. I couldn't tell you how many times we watched the Matrix movies. Oh my gosh.
Same. The Matrix and the sci-fi remake of Dune. I had that. It was one of the few things I had on DVD, so it got watched a lot.
Some of my fondest memories were going to his house, hanging out all night long, playing video games, watching videos, passing out on his bedroom floor, and then waking up at like 4 a.m. to the looping audio of the Matrix DVD in the main menu.
Oh yeah, yep.
All the cool stop motion footage, all the good shots in the menu screen. Yeah, great.
All 5 bullet shots.
Great memories, very fond memories. This is my buddy Half.
All right, so I'm excited. I only read through the only thing I made a lot of dents in was the objects,
Okay, yeah.
like the found objects. So why don't you tell us where you want to start and
Okay,
walk us into it,
so we're just gonna go with
deep into it.
we're just gonna go with what I've got
Okay.
on the quote unquote script. Let me have a drink before we get started because this shit's about to get deep. So, from my research, Backrooms started back in 2019 on 4chan. Let me give everybody a clear definition of what 4chan is. I remember 4chan because I was on it. Let me give you a clear definition of what 4chan is. 4chan is a simple image-based bulletin board where anyone can post comments and share images. The board's dedicated to various topics from Japanese animation and culture to video games, music, photography. And here's the big thing: is users don't need to register an account, so everything could be anonymous, and everything was anonymous. So if you're going to see here in a little bit, because I'm going to pull up the original 4chan thread. Everybody that commented on these posts, it just says anonymous instead of a username.
Right.
And this was great because this was early on in the internet times where people were just learning to communicate with each other.
Right.
4chan was the dark web before the dark web. You go with me?
Right.
Yeah. So
Right. I remember it.
yeah, I loved 4chan because
My programmer buddies were always like, "Did you see that thing on
Yeah.
4chan?" I'm like, "No, dude, I seriously did not."
So to give you an idea, Reddit is the current up-to-date version of what 4chan was.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Just streams on or threads on threads on threads.
Threads and threads and threads. So we're gonna go. I'm gonna go ahead and
Yeah.
pull up the original 4chan thread. This is exactly what it looked like. It was text-based. People think social media. This is before Facebook. But this is the archived original thread that started the Backrooms.
Okay.
And you see everybody here is posted anonymous. Anonymous is their username. But this thread originally was unsettling images. So this ties into something that's a secret hobby of mine, that I love photographs of liminal spaces.
Okay. Define for our listeners liminal space.
Okay, so it comes from the Latin word limen, which means threshold, right? So it's colloquially, it means like the threshold between reality and another place.
Okay.
Physical liminal spaces can be physical places that are empty or abandoned, such as empty hotel hallways or a doorway. They can also be places such as seem infinitely large, like a ski lift that fades into the fog, running into infinity. And these spaces can seem eerie, forlorn, surreal, and can be associated with a disconnection from reality.
Okay.
So I love these photos. Every one of these photos are great because these are essentially photos of liminal spaces. I think the original concept for liminal spaces and why it became so interesting was people were taking photographs of places that were super populated. Oh, let me smack my microphone. Places that were super populated, but now were completely empty.
Okay.
And then at the same time, these spaces were dated. So think of like growing up, going to the mall. That place was jumping. Hundreds, thousands of people there.
Right.
Imagine being in the mall while it's closed.
Right. Okay. Okay, I'm following you.
Okay, so that would be a liminal space. And and then, some people also talk about how liminal spaces are also like a section of a building or a room that's not supposed to be where you see it.
Okay.
So
because I've heard liminal referred to as liminal time,
right,
and they were talking about like that moment, like for instance, when you see a car crash coming, the moment you know it's gonna happen, the space between that and when the crash is over, that stretching, of time is like a time outside of time.
And that's-
somehow there was a whole book called Rant where they talked about how that was a way you could space travel or time travel and
Ooh,
shit. It was weird.
Was that a Chuck Palahniuk book?
Yep.
Yeah.
I can't believe you know that. Yeah. They went. It was about rabies and liminal time and spider bites. It was a whole.
Don't
It
get
was
me
a whole weird
Don't
thing.
get me started on Chuck Palahniuk, man.
Oh yeah, man. I know.
One of my very favorite authors. I would
Same.
I would love to just shake his hand one time and just say thank you. That's all I need to say.
So if you don't recognize the name, he's the guy that did Fight Club.
He wrote Fight Club. Yeah.
He wrote Fight Club, but he wrote a bunch of other books that are even better.
Oh, geez. If you like Fight Club, just read any of his other books.
Yeah.
Personally,
Awesome author.
Personally, I recommend Lullaby. That's one of my favorites.
Which one was that?
That's the one where it's a lullaby that you can read it to yourself, but if you speak it out loud, it either kills people or makes them crazy.
Oh no, I haven't read that one. I read the one where dude's like always giving cleaning tips.
Oh yeah.
He's like a sort of Mormon like
Yeah.
dude at first, and then he ends up in the, I want to say the porn industry. Or he's he's an evangelist, but he's all like tanned up and ripped.
Yeah. My favorite line from
But
that
he
book.
starts out as a cleaner.
My favorite line from that book is it channels that Fight Club energy big time. He's like, "Do you know how to get bloodstains out of piano keys?" I do.
Yeah.
Talcum powder
Yeah.
and a toothbrush.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Great times. I love Chuck Palahniuk. Go check him out, everybody. All right, so liminal spaces. So this is the original. This is archived 4chan thread.
Is this like a mirror site?
Yeah, this is this site is called 4plebs.org, and what they do is they take the
Okay.
super popular threads on 4chan and archive them.
Okay. Okay.
So these guys were gracious enough to archive the original Backrooms thread. So this is where it all started from, and this was the very first image.
Yep.
And
Yeah, that's very much how they describe it
And-
all the time.
anybody that knows the Backrooms knows this theme.
Yeah.
Because I mean, everything from the video games to every other video on YouTube looks like this. However, this is an actual place.
Tell me more.
Well, this was
This beige room, this beige empty room.
this was before people were making digital fakes of the place. This was the
this
was the photo
okay, I
that
gotcha.
this was the photo that gave inspiration for everything else Backrooms from that point forward.
Okay, I got you.
The original poster doesn't say anything about it. Honestly, he let's see. So he actually just says so this original thread was under X Paranormal, and he says unsettling images. Post disquieting images that just feel quote off. And this and this is what he started the thread with. And
So it's like an 80s beige office building with wallpaper that's beige on beige
but the
and
weird
walls that are painted beige.
the weird thing is, and this is where the Backrooms theme comes in that everybody recognizes, it's clearly an office space, but
Mhm.
there's horrible like 80s wallpaper with carpet in an office, but it still has like the acoustic panels in the ceiling like an office. So it's a mix.
And it looks like it's never been used.
Yeah.
Like the floor is like squeaky clean. The walls are super clean. Like it looks like it's never been used. Also, other than the one outlet right in front of you, there's like no outlets.
Yeah. It's very strange.
I mean, I know you can only see like a couple of walls, but those are walls that like I feel like you would have a desk near, and there'd be outlets, or they'd be in the floor,
Yeah.
or something. But there's like just the one.
So what I'm getting is somebody probably had this big empty office
Mm-hmm.
and they say, how do we make rooms? What's the cheapest way we can make rooms? And so they probably started with a big room and just put up some quick boards, some quick, because I'm seeing like, see the slats in the wood paneling in the background back here.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, this is what I've got in my house. It's behind me.
Oh yeah.
It's
Yep.
it's cheap. It's affordable. That's why everybody did it in the 80s. And then other walls that had drywall on it, they just slap wallpaper on it. Because you can see like at the bottom, the wallpaper is not done super well.
Mm-hmm.
I'd done enough construction to know that this was a quick job. So
Right.
and like, see back here, this wall doesn't quite connect to the ceiling.
Oh yeah, that's super weird. Let me change my view real quick while you're on this.
Maybe I can zoom in a little bit. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's super weird.
Yeah, doesn't quite connect to the ceiling. So that's another indicator that this was an office space that they just wanted to put some dividing walls in.
Mm-hmm.
And then these down here are called bump rails. So chairs and desks don't hurt the wall.
Oh yeah, that's very dated.
Yeah.
Huh.
And
All right.
this right here is called cove base. And this was a manufacturing standard for any type of building pretty much through the 80s and 90s. Everybody would put cove base at the bottom. It was a nice, easy way to transition from the wall to the floor. It came in huge, like 300-foot long rolls. It's made out of rubber. That's why it doesn't.
Every high school I went to had that.
Yeah, and that's why.
Yeah.
That's why I feel like it doesn't connect to the wall, because this wall was put here afterward.
Oh, gotcha. That makes sense.
So it's got bump rails, the signs of an office, but not enough to really say where it is, when it, how dated is it? We don't really know.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go down this thread. I love this picture because I've seen this space in hotels before. I love it. So if you look here at the bottom, you see this is like the entrance to a hotel room or a hotel lobby. This is above that doorway. I've seen these, and this is a pure definition of a liminal space. This alcove makes no sense.
Right. You can see it, but you can't get to it. But they have functional chairs and a table with a window.
It's
like
the purest definition of a liminal space. It's a thing in a space that doesn't belong.
I mean, they even floored it. Like they even did.
Yeah.
They even did finish work on it. Like, that is weird.
The only thing I can think is maybe, so like where the exit sign was the original exterior wall, and they put in a separate outside door, and decided, we're gonna make
for a breezeway.
Yeah, we're gonna make like an airlock. Everybody's, you go through two sets of doors. It's a good way to keep bugs out. It's a good way to keep temperature control. They probably built this after the original building, but didn't know what to do with the space above it.
And somebody was more bothered by the empty space than this.
Yeah.
Huh.
And this is where we get these very fucking disturbing images. Let's go down. See some more of these. That's pixel art. We don't need to see that. What is this? So it's a reflection image on a body of water.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't.
Some of these are going to be strange. I went through and looked at all of these. Yeah, like, just get the chills. Like, there's nothing purely unsettling about it, but it just gives you the something's not right.
Yeah, just a cello, an uncomfortable chair, and a table with, I think, a candle or a glass on it. It's hard to tell.
Yeah.
Huh.
The room is visibly cold looking, but outside are tropical plants.
Oh yeah.
Figure that one out.
That is odd. Even the floor is not even a wood floor. It's just, or maybe it is, but it just seems like it's just one color, just like brown.
So you'll notice a theme. Like, some of these are really good. Like, this is great. This is just abstract photography, but it falls in that vein of liminal spaces.
Yeah, because you have the sunrise here over mountains, but then the whole gas station is shut down with like no lights, no power, except for the glaring soda machine.
Yeah, no people around, no cars, no trash.
Nothing.
It's really
Oh yeah,
strange.
no trash. Super clean.
Super fucking clean.
Okay.
Yeah, like I like these slightly out of focus ones. I really do.
Okay, so I understand this is where the the idea of it started, but where do all the crazy stories come from?
The stories?
Because these are images.
Most of the stories came from Admittedly, I feel like a lot of the stories are made up, but
Mm-hmm.
they were created from these images. These are the images
Okay.
that created it all, man.
Okay.
Like, oh yeah, that's so good. So fucking good, man. Yeah, like these are the ones that get me.
So it's almost like an empty subway station, or or almost like the backdrop of like where you would check in for your flight, except only the light above that's lit, and and the the counter's not there anymore, just the polished backing.
It feels like these liminal spaces are like fragments of video games that didn't load correctly.
Yeah. That's a good way to describe it. Yeah, like part of it loaded and then the rest is wrong.
Yeah. Then you see a lot of these in this thread. Old furniture,
Yeah.
corners of the rooms that. So this is the big thing. This is why people related to it the most, because they were looking at these spaces and they were like, "Fuck, I've been there, but I don't remember when or where it was."
Okay.
So like,
So that sort of starts the idea that
I can look at
it's a place between a place.
Yeah, like I can look at this and I can tell you I've probably sat on a couch just like that. I can tell you what the fabric feels like.
Okay.
But like all of the elements in the image,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I've seen somewhere sometime before. I just couldn't nail it down. And that's why these things are so interesting. I love these oh yeah, like some of these are just fucking weird, man.
Oh, yeah. Wait, go back to that one. Go back to that one. It's almost like, I mean, I think it's mold, but it's almost like arterial spray
Yeah.
from somebody getting killed in this room, and then it just never got cleaned up. But fun fact about, I mean, I guess not, maybe not fun, but fun fact about death scenes. After the coroner's done and after the investigation is done, the police department does not clean it up.
Nope. It's up to the
That is
family.
up to the homeowner. Yeah, the family and the homeowner. And you know, a house where say 2 people died and were there for more than a week can cost as much as $16,000 to $20,000 to have a service clean it up.
Do you know about this image?
No, I don't.
Wonderfully horrifying story.
Okay.
I'm just gonna breeze through it right quick because it's a great story. This girl was caught on CCTV in a hotel in Los Angeles,
Okay.
acting very strange. She calls for the elevator, and she goes in the elevator, and then you see her like peeking out, looking, and then walking back out the elevator, holding the door the whole time, like she's looking for somebody.
Huh.
And like, then she'd scurry back to the corner and act scared, and then peek hesitantly out and this goes on for like 15 minutes, right? This was the last known footage of her before she died. She was found 3 weeks later inside the water tank on the roof of this hotel.
No. Oh, that's a good one. No leads, no nothing.
Nothing. And the crazy part is the opening was so small inside the water tank, they couldn't get in there to get her out. They had to cut the top of the water tank off.
What? Yeah, that's weird.
Wild. Tons of video on this girl. Oh, it's fucking spooky. And pretty quickly you see where the idea of crazy things in the darkness come into liminal spaces.
Yeah, half lit skeleton running down the train tracks.
Yeah. And then there's stuff like this. It's dumb.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a bad costume hand.
But yeah, continuing with the theme of like, feels like it's not fully loaded.
Or they loaded the building in the wrong environment.
Yeah.
Kinda.
Oh, that's just a fake ghost image. Let's see. Let's get into some more of these that look like liminal spaces. But a lot of these are just eerie and unsettling. There is a lot of like, oh, this is great.
That's silly. Tony Hawk Pro Skater.
Yeah, that's exactly what that's exactly where the tape would be in Tony Hawk Pro Skater. Let's see.
Okay, so I guess here's my question. So if you go into the more recent stuff, you're saying the soonest that it started was 2019. I feel like I heard something about it earlier than that.
So there are some reports that go back to 2011. I've found some reports that go back to 2001.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds
but
more like what I was thinking.
This was made back in 2019. This is the thread that spawned the Backrooms.
Okay.
Like, I was hoping there'd be some good comments in here, but there's just, weird. Oh yeah, this is great. Perfect example of liminal spaces. Something that's supposed to be outside, inside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's weird. That's weird. There's even a roof on it.
Yeah.
Weirdly, I think I remember some embassy suites that were built like that.
Yeah, me too. I've done a lot of hotels in my time.
Yeah, I feel like I've stayed in one that was like that.
Oop, now we're getting into the weird shit. This is where the concept of SCPs start to peek their head over the horizon and show their creepy fucking heads.
Because of these creatures as part of these photographs.
Yeah, these are the ones
These
that
liminal space
start
photographs.
Yeah, these are the ones that start to bring the spooky shit out.
Oh yeah, that's interesting.
What's this? Oh, that's just fucking weird.
Huh. So, so tell me, how much did... Oh, that's creepy. Just a Mickey mask, but you can see the eye of the guy in it. So the stuff that I was looking at that I thought was interesting, and some of them look good and some, just sound silly. Like I was standing behind a general at the Pentagon. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I don't think so. But these seem to be arrayed, at least on Wiki, a lot like the SCPs are.
Yeah.
Like 0 through 99, 100 through whatever. And they even seem to lay out the levels almost like entities in themselves.
Mm-hmm. In
a way.
Yeah, there's reports of people falling into the Backrooms, and there's reports of different levels. So from what I gathered is majority of people experience the main level, which is that first image in this 4chan thread. Let me scroll back up. Huge thread. This goes on for miles, by the way. This is what people see in the first level.
Okay.
And from this point forward, things get fucking crazy. Later on in the lower levels, things start turning into like pools in places they're not supposed to be. Water features in places they're not supposed to be. I've seen reports of people seeing like fountains that look like they were just plucked out of a mall and dropped in the middle of an office building. Then you get then some of the even deeper lower levels incorporate like remember back when you could go to McDonald's and you could throw your kids in the play area and they play?
Yeah.
Pull that equipment out and drop it in an office building.
So I guess here's my question: What are people's so people that are talking about having been there? Are they saying like they woke up there, or they went through a door and it shut behind them and they were like, oh crap, I'm here?
Okay.
Like what?
I've got a perfect story for you.
Okay.
So this is, obviously an anonymous post from May 13, 2019 on 4chan. Let me read my little piece I've got up to that point. It says, between 2011 and 2018, a photograph of a large carpeted room with fluorescent lights, which is what we're seeing here, was circulated on various message boards. And on May 12, 2019, an anonymous user stated on a thread X on 4chan paranormal theme asking, users to post disquieting images that just feel off, which is the thread we just looked at.
Mm-hmm.
Accompanying the thread with the photograph, which is this photograph I'm showing right now. Another user replied to the post, giving the image its name, supplying the first description of the Backrooms. You ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
Before I get into it, I need to explain what no clipping is. Do you know what no clipping is?
Yeah, where in a video game, you all of a sudden don't have to interact with the walls. You can just move through them.
Right. So
Part of God mode stuff.
So, say you're playing a video game. You bring your character to a wall. You hit the wall. You're clipping into the wall. So that keeps you from going through the walls to clipping.
Mm-hmm.
So back in the day of Doom, this is the first game that had no clip as a cheat.
Mm-hmm.
You can enable the no clip command, and it lets you pass through all of the walls, all the floors. You can fly around like Godboat.
Yeah.
That's where the term no clipping came from.
Yeah.
So he does talk about no clipping here. So here's what he said. This is an anonymous user on 4chan from May 13, 2019. He says, if you're not careful, you can no clip out of reality in the wrong areas. You'll end up in the back rooms. This is with a capital B. Where it's nothing but the stink of old moist carpets, the madness of mono yellow, the endless background noise of fluorescent lights at max hum buzz, and approximately 600 million square miles of randomly segmented empty rooms to be trapped in. God save you if you hear something wandering around nearby, because it sure as hell has heard you.
Huh. All right.
So this is in that thread. It's way, 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 way down.
Mm-hmm.
No, I found it earlier. Honestly, I thought I was going to be able to scroll to it in the podcast, but it's way down there, man.
Yeah.
Some sources believe that the Backrooms have been the origin of the internet aesthetic of liminal spaces, like we were talking about earlier, which depict usually busy locations that are unnaturally empty. The hashtag liminal spaces hashtag has amassed nearly 100 million views on TikTok. And then it talks a little bit about the game, the Stanley Parable, how it kind of references a little bit of the idea of the Backrooms. I was a big fan of the Stanley Parable. It says it's claimed to reference the Backrooms because it's tied to a long tradition of the liminal in horror, and the color yellow as a symbol of caution, deterioration, and existential distress.
Okay.
The Stanley Parable depicts a more absurdist and lighthearted, but still subtly disconcerting take on the latter. The Backrooms is a fungal, sickly yellow where both the person and the mind can lose themselves in it.
Oh, I like that.
So, a lot of what I was able to find tied back to the video game, because the video game was horribly popular.
Mm-hmm.
Horribly fucking popular. So it was hard to, you could search for backroom stuff on Google, but what you're going to get 90% of the time is information about the game.
Yeah.
My plan was to read some Backrooms Reddit stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But these stories are not short. Not at all.
Okay. Was there one that you like?
Oh yeah, there's one that I love, but it's several pages long.
Well, because the thing that I had some questions about were some of the items and artifacts that are supposed to be commonly found.
Go ahead, let's hear it.
In the Backrooms. Okay, so almond water.
Almond water. That's
almond water and cashew water.
That's a new one to me.
Okay, so what I see here is that almond water, and this was I picked this out because this was one of the things I remember when somebody was talking about the rusty keys and looking for, where those, what doors those keys open up. Almond water often appears as a canteen or like the Nalgene bottles, but they're aluminum.
Mm-hmm.
and they're full of what, it varies in taste from person to person. Seems like it's water, and has sort of an almondy but also slightly salty taste to it, and is supposed to, a whole bottle of almond water is supposed to be equivalent to 500 calories. And so if you're stuck in the back rooms, these and candies are some of the only sustenance available in this barren space. And so they've become, according to people who claim to go, they become a sort of barter and trade item,
Right.
for various things. So that weird stuff, that's like, where is this coming from? Because they talk about it like there's, wanderers that they spend a bunch of time there and they barter and trade, and they, gun down these entities with what did they call it? Fire salts, and all kinds of stuff. So, I mean, but I don't see a whole lot about how they end up there.
So, let me see if I can find this video. There's a really good YouTube video that it doesn't explain it, but it's actually a student film. But I feel like it's a really accurate interpretation of how people just end up. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. I'm gonna mute this so we don't get fucking slammed. But so this was labeled as found footage. The video starts out like a student video project. I'm just gonna let this run for a second, and they're acting like they're filming a little video, and then watch, he just drops. And this is where the no clip idea comes in.
Okay. Yeah, I see they're still, they're like talking about a scene.
Whoop.
Yeah.
There he goes.
And then oh, wow.
Yeah. And this is where the concept of no clipping comes in when it comes into entering the back rooms.
And so he just fell through the floor and came through the ceiling of this beige office building.
So this video is pretty long, almost 10 minutes long. He wanders around this thing for like 7-8 minutes before he sees anything. And he starts hearing noises off in the distance. This is perfect, prime example of backroom.
Level 1.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, this is super creepy. I would be creeped out.
Yeah, like he starts hearing stuff. Did you see the head poking around the corner?
Yeah. Yeah, I did. You just see a brief clip of something coming around the corner. A wall that doesn't meet. 2 walls that come but don't meet. And then you can see into the next room.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's weird, man. That's super weird.
Okay, so I have a list of the levels of the back room.
Okay.
Oh, wow. They are not organized at all. Okay. Never mind. This is the video game. This is the problem I keep running into.
What were you on the wiki, the Backrooms wiki dot?
Yeah, I was looking at the AI generated results.
Oh man.
But this
is super weird.
Everything about this, it's just no one knows where these things, like, no one really knows how the full concept of being stuck in here infinitely came around. But we know that the first real conversation about it was on 4chan.
And these are weird architectural cut-ups of these spaces. Like, even for an office, this would be weird.
Yeah.
This doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Like functionally or, usability. Like, I mean, even visually, it'd be very confusing to try to make your way around, even if it was full of furniture and desks and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Because it's all the same except none of the walls make any sense where they're at.
Yeah.
Arrows painted on the wall to go this way. Ugh.
Yeah,
Ugh.
there's some weird stuff, man. It's really hard to nail down anything
Mm-hmm.
about this. And this is where we start getting into SCP stuff. Because
Because there's a
it's the creatures,
sketchy looking drawing of a creature.
Yeah, it's the creatures in the back room that tie into SCPs. Because in some of the later backrooms stuff, you see that the people are like military and government organizations are going into the backrooms in like an exploratory sense,
Mm-hmm.
and they're doing what they can to capture these creatures.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
it hasn't been written in black and white, but I feel like this is the start of the SCPs.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, see, even all this mirror stuff, like, this makes no sense. Like, mirrors and open cutways and holes in the floor. Yeah, this is really well done. I mean, I get that this is, like, probably a student film, but this is really well done. And strange.
Yes.
Super strange.
Yes.
Like, why would you have these holes from one level to another? And what's with that tiny staircase? That's creepy.
Yeah.
So I guess again, I have to wonder why the man, it's like built wrong.
Yeah.
I guess I have to wonder why the persistence, right? Like, you know, I get the persistence of UFOs both because, you know, there's likely crafts and science that, you know, the general public isn't going to know about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, by the time a government is advertising that they have a thing, they've already had it for a while. You know, it's irrelevant now as far as what they're actually, you know, loading out on ships and so on. So it doesn't matter to, you know, try to, you know, scare another country with it, because they're not really revealing anything they haven't already used.
Oh,
But
here's the wild shit. Watch how he gets back.
a wrong way hallway.
It's down. It's angled down.
Oh, dude. Ugh. Oh, no way. He just falls back into
The end.
and he's dead. And the camera survives somehow.
Yeah.
So I guess I get why the UFO thing persists, because there are weird things in the sky and there are weird happenings, and you know, and there's more people than us that want to believe, right? But I don't know that I understand why the Backrooms thing, or at least for me personally, because this is kind of new to me, I don't understand why the persistence of this.
So it eventually ties back in 2019 to creepypastas. We all know how popular creepypastas got. They are tremendously popular. Tell me you know what creepypastas are.
Nope, I don't.
Ooh.
Nope.
How are we friends again? How? Okay. Let me give you a clear-cut definition of creepypasta, because I don't want to get this wrong. So, creepypasta is a subgenre of horror fiction that involves short, user-generated stories or images related to the paranormal or horror that are spread online. The goal of creepypastas is to create a scare or frighten or unsettle the reader. They're often posted on the internet forums and social media, where they can be modified or expanded on by multiple collaborators. Slender Man. Perfect example.
Slenderman. Okay, yeah, Slenderman.
He was a creepypasta.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
the only thing is, this was around before creepypastas.
Okay.
So it's like the chicken and the egg thing. Which one came first? Some people will say creepypastas were first. because it was very close within a year of each other. Some say that
Okay.
the creepypastas were first, and this is one of the first creepypastas. But then some people
Okay.
will say the Backrooms was the first, and it spawned the idea of creepypastas. So
Okay.
it could go either way, but it's initially it all goes back to 4chan. And I mean, take it with a grain of salt. You know, this was it was social media before social media. This is where people could go and just say what they wanted to say. You know, put as much weight on that as you want. However,
Right.
like you said, what's making it stick around?
Yeah, because that's, that's what I come back to, like with, so a lot of paranormal stuff and the concept of, a life after this life or some sort of existence after you're gone, even though a lot of these things involve, ghosts and kind of creepy, phenomena, the core of it is the idea that we were never quite dead, right? That it's somehow weirdly comforting that even if you die, you may not be gone, right? Or on the other hand, that your loved ones are still around, comforting you or are nearby, so I get why that persists. I mean, that's one of the oldest, traditions in human thought and spiritualism, is that the soul persists, right? It's the core of most religions. It's the core of most tribalism. The idea that the ancestors are still there somewhere. Their knowledge, their presence, their being. So I get why, now in modern culture, the concept of ghosts and, angry spirits and so on persists, because, it's even for me, it's not weird for me to think that, sometimes I still might feel Jack, my German Shepherd that's gone. I'm not really one to ascribe to that sort of thing, but I really feel like, my art definitely changed because of a dream that I had about him. And it's the basis of all the stuff that I paint now. Not overtly, it's not just like portraits of me and my dog, but the concept of Jack the Space Dog. I had a dream about him, flying. I was out in open space and he flew past me, chasing this like techno lit up like orb thing that looked like, high technology.
Right.
And he's got his dog tongue hanging out, like he's got his head hanging out the window,
Right.
just trying to catch it like it's a tennis ball. But I had the in my mind, it was actually this AI thing that was trying to get away from him and playing with him. And so, I went 4 months without painting anything and not even knowing what, not even feeling like I had anything to paint. And then all of a sudden I have this concept that, is like endless in my head. So I want to believe too that, people stay around. So I get why the paranormal stuff sticks, and I get why the UFO stuff sticks, and even the SCPs, because you see weird things, you see weird stuff in the dark, out in the woods. You hear about tales. Cryptids and forest monsters have been around almost as long. So it makes me wonder, is it because it's a new retelling of that? Like, what is so popular that it keeps persisting? Because I want to be like, where's the kernel?
Right.
Right. Where's the kernel of truth? So I can be like, these are a thing and a place. I guess that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah. Let's scroll down this thread, man. Let's see if we can find anything.
Besides just pictures, because I mean, I agree, all these pictures are weird. Like, I agree, but these things don't seem to me to
This is what gets me right here. Comments like this. What the fuck? Where have I seen this?
Oh, okay.
We see these pictures and we're like, I've been there. There's like the sensation of knowing you've been there and knowing that you've, like I told you earlier, that picture with the couch. I could tell you what the couch fabric felt like.
Right.
Because I remember sitting on the couch and running my hands through it because the fabric was funny. It was like felt, but long. And I could move it, and it moved like fur, but faux fur. But it was really clean. It was always really clean. But I couldn't tell you where I sat down on it at.
So maybe the idea is that people are popping in and out of this place all the time, but you don't get to retain a lot of memory of it other than a hazy recollection of familiarity.
Let's see what picture he's talking
Maybe
about.
that's why it persists.
Yeah, this is the picture that guy was talking about. Like,
So that's a picture turned upside down. To start with.
oh,
Yeah. Because that's the
shit,
sky at
yeah,
the bottom, and the
it's
plants on the side are coming from the top. They flip the image
it's a
around.
tunnel, yeah.
Yeah, and the lights are, on the floor, but they're really on the ceiling.
Yeah, it's just there's so much weird shit in this thread, man. Let me try to find some of the shit that I was looking at earlier.
Because I want something like, where, is there, a story of somebody disappearing for like 3 weeks and then appearing back in the same spot randomly, and they have a story about how they were,
Well,
while the police were looking for them this whole time, they have a story about where they'd been and it was like this.
do you want me to read this Reddit?
Sure.
All right, I'm gonna try to breeze through it pretty quick because it's kind of long.
Okay.
So it's all it says is 5+ years ago. So we don't have an official date.
Okay.
But this is titled as The Backrooms on a Reddit thread called No Sleep, which I've been on here before. I know a lot of strange stuff comes from here. It seems like there's a lot of back information here. I was trying to filter through it a little bit to see where the story picks up, but I'll just breeze through as quick as I can. So it reads, it's late September. You remember those nights, right? Humid, muggy, just a hint of the coming fall. Too cold for a t-shirt, too warm for a sweater. These are the nights best spent at a Cook Place community mall in my modest Midwestern hometown. But not tonight because it's 8:15 on a Tuesday night, 45 minutes until close, not exactly prime window shopping hours. Despite that, my 3 friends and I were still going strong. We were ending the night in the dusty arcade located in the basement of a shopping mall. It was down a short flight of stairs between the Dairy Queen and the Sparrow in the food court. Philip, my youngest friend, questioned the words game overs. Okay, he gets in. I mean, there's like some blah blah blah. He's in this place, hanging out with his friends. Let me see if I can skip forward to when dude gets into some weird shit, because there's a lot of, I call it fluff, when they expound on the story to make it fleshed out a little more.
Right. Character building.
That's the only way I know how to describe it. One moment he had slipped off his feet and crashed into the wall. The next, everything but his legs had gone through the wall as if it were a perfectly shaped hole in the concrete. His legs spasmed in the air for a moment, looping spasmic pattern, but for a few seconds. And then there was nothing left but solid concrete. I don't understand. Philip, there's like direct quotes and some other things. They're freaking out about this kid slipping through the wall. I stepped backward as my friend disappeared from sight, and I was left with his scream bouncing off the hallway walls, intensifying with a mixed hum of fluorescent lights. The howl of the fluorescent. My back was pressed against the bathroom door, and I jumped. I screamed as my world exploded with static, deafening and blinding. The noise was unbearable, and the grain obscured everything. And all at once it stopped. I clutched my head in my hands, squeezing my eyes shut. The static had dissipated, but was replaced with the hum of fluorescent lights and the all too familiar yellow glow through my eyelids. But there was nothing new. The smell hadn't been there before. The musty, wet smell of carpet that should have been changed decades ago. The smell reminded me of dilapidated bowling alley down the road from the mall. I opened my eyes, but before me was the bathroom hallway as expected, lit by the same light as before. The bathroom doors were gone. There were no more doors, no more custodial equipment, just a smooth slab of concrete wall. Got to my feet and looked around cautiously. It seemed as if the mall was still, but it was quiet. It felt different. The fluorescent buzz was too loud. My ears itch. I walked down the hallway in the direction of the food court. As I turned the corner, I was met with not the opening of the food court as expected, but by another abrupt 90-degree corner turning to the left. I froze. The loudspeaker was engaged and a ding-dong let out. The empty air of the loudspeakers nearest me told me that the operator had nothing to say. After a motionless moment, what felt like hours, the microphone snapped back into the console, cutting the empty noise. Whomever had activated the speaker seemed to have hung up. Confused and growing ever more frightful of where I had found myself, I turned the corner. I was met with a large, empty room I'd never seen before, about the size of a classroom, with stained concrete walls. The smell of must was even stronger here. Each wall had identical rectangular-shaped doors opening that seemed to be placed at randomly decided positions along the wall. The popcorn ceiling, littered with smears of dirt and greasy imprints, had long cracks spanning it. This room was clearly in need of renovation. I don't understand, I muttered out loud. I truly don't. The featureless room served no purpose other than a passageway into the other rooms. The lack of planning and an absent attempt at caring for the room made me feel as if the place was long forgotten. Might as well try the next room. The room I found myself in was bleak and unrecognizable as the last. From my first glance, the only difference in style was that this room was shaped as a triangle. I heard a single cry from my right. It was more of a whimper, actually. It was Clay's voice, Clay was one of his friends at the beginning of the story. But it couldn't be Clay. I watched him leave the mall. I rushed through the door to find Clay laying in the fetal position in a long hallway, stretching a distance to my left and right. Change the channel, Clay babbled incoherently and sobbed on the floor. It gets Clay up. How can the fluorescent lights be so damn noisy? And then I saw it, and then I felt it. It hung motionless in the air. Feet lightly scraping the ground. It had dry, cracked skin. It was dressed loosely with torn, rough-spun shorts. It had the torso of a man, but its torso was on the wrong way. Its frail and feeble arms outstretched to the ceiling, not quite reaching, as if in an act of surrender. It had a cocked head, as if confused, as it peered down the hallway at me. Dark, beady eyes staring widely at me through the holes in the bloody duct tape wrapped around its head. And then it started to float towards us. Every time I blinked, stunned in absolute terror, it was not where I expected, a few feet forward, some inches to the left, never where it should be, and yet it was getting closer, ever closer. What I saw next will follow me forever. I turned to run, breaking the stillness, and sprinted down the hallway. I don't know. I guess I just assumed Clay would follow in the moment, but I was wrong. A blood-curdling screech shook the hallway, and I whipped around. It had reached Clay. He was still looking. He still wasn't looking, but he was certainly screaming. It extended its long, spindly arms and cradled him like a child. But it wouldn't look away from me. No, its eyes never left me. In one quick jerking motion, it was holding Clay by the top of its head, palming it like a basketball. I blinked and it had grasped Clay's arm with its free hand. With brute strength, it twisted Clay by the torso. Clay, screaming, cut short with a fleshy crunch as it dropped to the floor in a twisted pile. His eyes finally opened to look at me one last time, and then I screamed. The louder I screamed, the louder the fluorescent hum became, which was louder. I couldn't tell. I turned and ran to the first door I saw, blindly twisting and turning through the rooms that followed. Why on earth does every room look the same? I turned a corner and ran face first into a dark mass. We both fell to the floor. Andy, which is one of his other friends. How did you get down here?
Mm-hmm.
Where the hell are we? I don't know where we are. Blah, blah, blah. A bunch of dramatic text. We turned and rushed down the third hallway, perpendicular to the hallway that we were in. We ran until it felt like we could run no more, and then fell into a final doorway. We landed in a mass at the damn floor and quickly scuttled to the back of the wall. The hum of the lights was all we could hear, louder and louder. And then they all went out. Silence. We found ourselves in total darkness, total silence as we clutched each other. No, wait, not total silence. The sound of static, as if emitting from a television, slowly coming towards us. Only when the light coming out of the source of the noise started to slowly illuminate the room did I realize the room only had one door. It floated around the door frame, toes dragging on the floor as it cast its bloody eyes upon us. Leave us alone, I screamed. The intercom goes off again. I screamed and Andy lunged towards it. I fell backward into the wall and I landed inside of a trash can. What? I was inside a trash can filled with refuse from a full day of food court disposal. Kid, what are you doing here? I looked out to see a very confused elderly janitor wondering why a young man was taking a Sbarro bath after mall hours. It was 9:32. At least that was what the clock on the wall over the fountain said. The water fountain. I'm back at the mall. Oh, sorry, I was just hungry, and I ran. In the following years, I tried to make sense of what happened in that back hallway. I even went as far as to returning to there to try and access that place, but to no avail. I never found a thing, but I kept trying until they demolished the mall a year later. Philip and Andy's parents weren't really present when they were around, so they didn't make much of a deal of it on TV when they were interviewed. Despite the media trying to fire them up, they just seemed like it was the final straw to send them into total apathy. Last I heard, Clay's parents moved out of town, but they were paying exorbitant private investigator bills to find their son. After a few years of half-assed detective work and a few rotations of milk cartons, Andy and Philip were forgotten by our sleepy town. But sometimes, when I'm going to sleep, I remember, and I leave the TV on Channel 3. There's nothing broadcasting on that channel, but the static helps me sleep.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, that's creepy.
So the comments are great on this. Let's see. The guy says, for anybody who's seen the original Backrooms, post why do I think I've been there? Like, seriously, it reminds me of a store. But I also think of my grandma's house at the same time. I don't know where that picture was taken, but it's extremely unsettling. And then somebody else names the same store that the guy in the previous comment. He's like, yes, I've been there. This is exactly what it reminds me of. Says, bro, that's crazy. Creepy to the first thing we both thought of was a little known department store. The first two comments on Reddit over 5 years ago knew the exact same grocery store. What are the odds?
Yeah.
One guy says, no, it goes even further back for me. It reminds me of exploring an old church as a child in a very creepy way, which I've done that. Because I had a friend of mine that used to drag me to church every week, but I would like sneak around the church and look into rooms I'm not supposed to be in. And then somebody else says, the original Backrooms photo was incredibly similar to the basement of a church I used to have a Boy Scout meeting in.
Oh. Weird.
The guy says it's like the basement from my childhood home, but multiplied over 1 million square miles. It's even more unsettling for me because it's kind of hits home for real. Definitely reminds me of those creepy shops in the corner of the mall, the ones that usually specialize in tailoring dry cleaning. Yeah. Because there's always like one or two that are always open, but they never have anybody in there.
Yeah.
I've also felt like I've been there. It feels so similar. It feels so familiar to this place. I barely have found out about it 2 minutes ago. I saw a meme of this photo and I wondered where that was because the caption said the back room. I've been here before, but I don't know when exactly. I know it was when I was a child. It's unsettling me to so many others. But we all faintly remember it too, which goes right back to what we were saying at the beginning of the podcast. Is we're seeing these images that are just something in it's just clicking and you're going, fuck, where was that?
Yeah.
And like one guy wrote off a dream he had where he fell through a wall and landed here. The Backrooms remind me of this time when I got lost at JCPenney. I ended up in this weird hallway that seemingly led to nothing. It started at the dressing rooms and went on for maybe 20 feet and ended. I don't remember a single door in that hallway. It had the same fluorescent buzz, same yellow color, and same damn smell. And 1.1 thousand replies to this comment, and it seems like everybody's like, yes, I thought it's JCPenney too. Which, now that he mentions it, fuck, that does look like JCPenney.
So I wonder if that's why it persists, is so many people see these images and it feels like familiar, like they've been there too.
Yeah.
And so there's something spooky about that, with so many people having a shared memory of the same, indistinct but still somehow kind of distinct place.
Cool.
Looking for a JCPenney picture?
Yeah. Oh, geez, yeah. If those aren't liminal spaces.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one. Inside the old JCPenney at the mall. Yeah.
Oh, fuck. It is JCPenney,
Yeah.
bro.
Wow. Yeah, an empty one. That is, yeah. Huh. All right. Yeah, take down the mirror and it's like,
Yeah.
take out the desk and you're there.
Yeah, because there was always
Type in empty JCPenney's.
There was
Or
always
JCPenney storeroom.
the lighting was always yellow, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Empty JCPenney store.
Yeah, like empty JCPenney store or JCPenney's back room. Because I wonder if we can find this space that everybody says that they were in that was near the... Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Look at it. Look at that. There you go. Yeah, if that's not it,
Yeah.
I don't know what is.
Okay, so this encapsulates so many elements of the Backrooms.
Mm-hmm.
Because look, like the weird pieces of like a single mannequin with clothes still on it in the corner here.
Yeah, and the weird tiling right in the middle.
Yeah.
But nothing to distinguish why it would be there.
Like there used to be stuff.
Yeah, look at that one. Yeah, there you go. Ugh. All the light covers flip down, every single one of them. And pillars and carpet. Yeah, look at that. All the light sconce openings are all flipped down.
Yeah.
Brightly lit,
This-
old carpet.
This feels like Backrooms for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Huh.
Okay, so we're kind of getting to the root of it. So maybe it's like this lingering fear that we had as a kid.
From getting lost in JCPenney?
Getting lost in JCPenney, yeah.
Or having to go pick out school clothes with our parents.
I didn't mind.
That's
picking it.
interesting.
Yeah, because it was a thing for me growing up. Don't go too far. Don't get
Right.
And how many times would you climb into the clothing rack to hide?
Oh, yeah.
Just expect to jump out, and your parents are gone. The
Mhm.
fear sets in immediately.
Yep.
And it was-
Yeah, I've done that.
was-
Or gone wandering and it whole sections of the store will be empty, but it's full of stuff, but whole sections of the store will be empty. Or I do seem to remember there was one that was being remodeled and like half the store was full and the other half was just completely empty, but still set up like it ought to be.
Yeah.
But nothing in it and stuff pushed to the side, kind of like this picture you're showing here.
Yeah. So maybe that's where I really feel like that's the root of why we find this so terrifying. Sure.
Yeah, that makes more sense. That feels like a kernel of a thing for why it would persist and why everybody finds these pictures so disquieting.
Yeah, because
Especially as we're looking through these empty pictures of JCPenney's, like this seems like, I don't want to be like, we solved the Backrooms, but this seems to make it relate to something real.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like something real inside the brain that's making these spaces seem so off. And why the architecture looks so weird when there's nothing in it. right? Like why it seems so like haphazard when there's nothing in it or anything displayed.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that.
Like
yeah,
that one.
that's
Yeah.
yeah. Huh. Okay. Well, that makes a little more sense to me then.
Yeah. It's
Uh,
oh, there
why
you
it
go.
persists a whole, you know, and this is also going to be the whole generation that you know, whose parents were Gen Xers and we're like on the cusp of Gen X, Gen millennial. You know, because you and I fit right there on that cusp
Yeah.
between the two. So we all shopped at malls,
Oh yeah.
you know, as a kid or hung out there, and you know, they were really popular when we were really little.
Yeah.
So it was where you went and bought anything.
JCPenney was the place. JCPenney or Sears.
Yep, JCPenney and Sears. Yeah, and they all would have looked kind of like this depending on what decade they were built in. Okay, well, see, that kind of forms a better picture in my head of why.
Look, 4 clicks later, Backrooms.
Yeah, and then there it is. Yeah, and then there it is. Yep, and then there it is. Yeah, you start searching for empty JCPenney's and then you come up with Backrooms.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah, that didn't even, until they made that comment, I didn't make that connection.
I didn't either.
That's what looks so familiar about it. That makes sense. Yeah, it is. It's super strange to see them empty.
You know, that's the same one. Look at the floor.
Mm-hmm.
So weird.
Oh, and that'd be that center section where they had everything lined up on aisles going out from it. But I guess when it's full, you don't really realize that it's just a tile square in the middle of the concrete for nothing, or in the middle of the carpet for nothing.
Yeah. So maybe that is why this persists so much, because
Yeah, I feel like we've pulled something out here.
I really feel like we've figured at least something out, because I can remember like just my parents drilling it into my head. I mean, I was that kid that wandered off. I remember as a real little kid, I was that one that had the harness on and my parents had the leash.
Yeah, my mom had one of those.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
because
and,
I
you know,
would wander
this stuff's
off.
scary too, because we were the stranger danger generation.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, you know,
Right. Especially as little kids.
it seemed like anybody that wasn't in your family was
Mm-hmm.
a threat.
But
Doesn't matter
it was
what they
dangerous
look
'cause-
like. And
Because that's what your parents told you.
yeah. And they would,
They'd scare the crap out of you
yeah,
with it.
like the Dare program would come to school and tell you to be afraid
Yeah.
of anybody that you don't know. And so you would
Right.
go to JCPenney. It was always JCPenney. Damn. You
Right.
could go
Yeah, that's
anywhere else.
See, this is what I was looking for. I was trying to understand why, you know, what, like, because it's just a fictional tale that somebody put up. Like, what's so? I mean, because it's not, you know, it's not particularly terrifying in a traditional way, and it's not, you know, spectacular, you know, happenings. They're just weird and uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to understand why they persist. And these pictures like this explain a lot. This explains a lot about why, especially, you know, people our age, a little younger, a little older, this stuff seems creepy.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing particularly creepy about it. It's just a fucking empty building. I mean, there's, you know, traditionally there's other buildings that should be creepier. But something about these places empty with just some of the lights on, or light just filtering in through a door, definitely goosebump making.
Yeah. Kudos on us. We pulled on a good fucking thread tonight.
Yeah, that's really good. That feels more satisfying, because I was just kind of like, I felt like we were kind of, at least the concept was just kind of hanging out there like an anomaly versus, you know, other stuff that we cover and will cover. You know, I feel like most things. So I don't know if you listen to much Terrence McKenna or read, you know, a whole lot of his stuff.
A bit.
But okay, so he talks a lot about, you know, I mean, obviously he was a proponent of changing the American psyche through psychedelics, but one of the things that he talked about was that culture itself is a living, breathing creature, right? Culture itself, the thing that we make together, right? And, you know, he said if you took the time to unplug, meaning, you know, now turn your phone off, put, you know, don't go buy a newspaper, don't watch the news, make your own culture within your own house, meaning like you and your family, he's like, you would realize how much you're drowning in the culture of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning you just go about your everyday participating in all these things, all the stimuli, all this stuff all the time, unconsciously. You know, you're just immersed in it all the time. And so a thing that he talked about, you know, before everybody knew memes as funny phrases put together with a funny picture, memes are cultural ideas and cultural concepts that persist like a gene does from one human body to another, like from one generation to the next.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's a strong idea that propagates because it has some advantage to do so. So, you know, some of those things are concrete facts, like fire is hot and it'll burn your hand. Don't put your hand in the fire.
Yeah.
Cultural meme, also a fact, but we all just know it because it's a thing that your parents tell you, and everybody just knows it, right? So that's a meme. That's an example of a meme.
Yeah.
And memes that are advantageous for some reason propagate. So that's why I'm always like, where does this come from when we cover a concept? It's like, why does this persist? Why does this meme? What is this meme's advantage, and why does it persist in the human consciousness, right? In the cultural overlay of our lives, why does this thing persist? And so in this case, you know, I think they all have a reason. All these things that we're going to cover and all this weird stuff is going to have a reason.
Yeah.
Because it's not like you and I just have the weird lives and we just in a vacuum experience some weird thing. These are all things we're covering and pulling out of culture. So I think this persists because of, you know, the mall culture and this, you know, in some ways the stranger danger culture. And, you know, everybody has a bit of a fear of like a sudden aloneness.
Mm-hmm.
And I think all these pictures represent in some way a weird like ripping away of that like wool blanket of culture you're always wrapped in.
Yeah.
You're always surrounded by. These things are stark and devoid of all that, but have the semblance of it, kind of like the creepy valley of synthetic like robot people versus people, right?
Yeah.
There's that weird divide between like even really good, you know, synthetic characters or like AI voices. You know, Siri always comes across in that creepy valley. Like you don't think that she's real,
Right.
you know, on your phone, because she falls into that creepy valley where it's like, yeah, it sounds realistic, but does not fool me into thinking it's a real person.
Right.
It's that divide between real and not real. And I think these things fall into that place because obviously it's made, but it doesn't have all the trappings of what it should, and so it falls into that zone
Yeah.
right there. So
Yeah, I think we. Damn it! Did we figure this shit out?
I kind of feel like we did. I mean, I hate to be like we solved Backrooms because somebody's gonna be like, you didn't. But
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
I feel like we found the thread that runs between all of it.
Yeah.
Let me put it that way. I feel like your research and us being able to look at this stuff, and your recollection of being like, yeah, I feel like I've seen that stuff too, and that person saying J.C. Penney's like, I feel like we found the thread that stretches and connects all this stuff,
Right. And
which is what we're doing.
I f-
That's what we're doing.
I feel like a big portion of this is, for me, like when you go into a space that you know you're not supposed to be in and your head swims
Right.
a little bit.
Right.
It's that,
that oh moment.
yeah, because it's comforting because it looks familiar, but your head's doing that swimmy thing where you know you shouldn't be there, but you're there. What do I do?
Because if it was a place that was supposed to have people, it would have the trappings of people, right?
Yes.
And this has none of that.
Yeah, and it's
Like it's not supposed to be occupied, and you're occupying.
yeah. I mean, kudos on us. Yeah, we did. I think that was great. It was for really the research not being super fleshed out. It's hard to nail down exactly what started it all. Maybe it was a dream that somebody had, because I feel like this could have been a dream that somebody like dreamt. I was in an empty JCPenney, but they didn't put it together that they were in an empty JCPenney, because this picture feels like a JCPenney.
Yeah,
it's
yeah. This feels like this could be like as you're going back towards the changing rooms, almost like
Yeah.
it's yeah, or a home section of Sears. It's yeah. I think that's probably why it was such a slippery topic to try to nail down, too, is because it's really like this weird thing that's lodged in the subconscious of us as kids, and why a lot of people say like I think I was there as a kid, right?
Mhm.
All those pieces fit. And that, like I said, that's probably why it's so slippery to nail down, because like the variation of these across the country, plus variation in age, plus variation in culture, everybody kind of feels like they were at one of these. Like even that space that I was like, that looks like an Embassy Suites,
Yeah.
like the courtyard
Yeah.
inside an Embassy Suites, except it's missing all the stuff, right? It's missing the fountain, it's missing the food bar, and it's missing the plants. But the shape and that indoor courtyard thing, like there was one in Florida we went to like every year.
Yeah.
That was like that, except it had a skylight. But they weren't looking up far enough in that picture to see whether or not there was one.
Right.
But that one made me feel like that, like, oh no, that one I do know. But I think it's because it's these places we've been, and then these are pictures of them without it. And so it, and that stuff probably works its way into your dreams too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think
Residual
I think
shit
it's-
gets reamalgamated into these weird things.
So I wonder if this isn't, like I said, it's more like a subconscious, spatial meme that's worked its way into so many people from all these industrial commercial spaces.
Yeah.
That we exist in and out of all the time.
And
I mean, like all the time, we're saturated with it.
then maybe the twist of, they were saying, oh, cool, people are talking about these weird spaces. What can I do to put a twist on it to make it more terrifying? And people are going to want to read my post, because now we're getting the younger people in. They don't necessarily remember it, but they were like, hey, this guy's getting noticed online. What do I got to do to get noticed online? So
Right, because I see it's gotten very elaborated on, especially like you said, post the video game.
Yeah.
There's people out there doing whole authorship.
Yeah.
On like levels and places, like very imaginative stuff, but it definitely reads like somebody's trying to write a creepy fictional story.
Yeah.
Which is something else I noticed in some of the SCP stuff. Like some of the older stuff seems like they're following a formula, like a reporting formula, but then interspersed in there's stuff that's just somebody's like, like a diary entry or a fictional story blurb. So yeah, I like this. This is good. I'm glad we could burrow down into why this was such a slippery subject to try to read on.
So I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say backrooms are real, but they may or may not be an amalgamation of our memories mixed with our fears.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to go with you on that. I mean, I think it's real, but maybe not in the sense that like a cursory look would suggest. Right. Like a cursory look makes you think it's like some place that you could go like right now if you fell through a wall. I feel like you're saying. I think it's fragments of shared experience, shared human experience, because this stuff was everywhere. And it's worked its way into the vast majority of our consciousness, and then mix it with childhood and fears and a culture of fear. And I think you have the backrooms, and your dreams are a place too. I mean,
Yeah.
That's why people are afraid of nightmares. I mean, they feel terrifying. It's not like it's a part and you can, in the middle of it, you can be like, oh no, I'm in a dream. It's as real to you then when you're doing it as this is now.
Right.
Hence the fear, and night terrors and things like that. So, I mean, I think in that sense, I mean, I think it's real. I mean, I think it's a real thing.
Let's chalk that one up as a
Sweet.
win.
Yeah, I'll call it a win.
That was a good one. Honestly, I was very unsure where this was gonna go.
Oh, I had no idea. Like I said, I started looking into like, all these like detailed reports of like objects you could find and all this other stuff. And I was kind of like,
But yeah,
it was starting to sound like a fictional movie.
yeah, it got a little crazy a little quick, but
I'm glad you found this earlier stuff, because that explains a whole lot more
yeah,
about where it came from. Even though initially I was like, okay, they're creepy photos. But once we dug down into like, the subconscious part of it,
yeah,
I think the early stuff really explains it. in that way.
So I will say, if any of our listeners out there have any experience with the Backrooms, please feel free to reach out to us. If we get enough people to email us, we'll read your emails. We'll talk about it. We're cool dudes. We'll do that. We are at beyondshadowspodcast@gmail.com. You can also find us at Beyond Shadows Podcast on Instagram and Beyond the Shadows Podcast on Facebook. Let me drop this down. Well, that's our logo. It's everywhere.
Look for it and you shall find us.
Look for the skulls. That's us. We are unlike any of the others. We're not the serious type that are going to sit back and, only chat about, ghosts and happenings. But we do, we'll do our thing. What are you thinking for next week? I think we're due for a good ghost investigation.
You mean like a singular investigation?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I like those. Those are really good.
We had,
I liked the one about
Enfield.
the house with the flies. Yeah, Enfield.
Yeah.
Enfield also. Yeah, I like those. I like digging into those and really seeing, putting it to the test.
I'm trying to steer clear of subjects that have been turned into mainstream movies, unless they have super deep roots. So, the Enfield Poltergeist was an individual account, but they turned it into a fantastical movie, which the movie's completely unlike the actual story. And I think through our conversation, we discovered that it probably wasn't true.
Oh yeah.
But I will poke through and try to find us a good ghost story. Something.
Okay, I'll try to take a look too and see what I can find.
Yeah. Hopefully find something, because that's another thing I look for when I'm researching, is I'll try to look for something that we could talk about that has evidence that I can show you.
Right. Yeah. We like evidence because it makes it easier to burrow down into it.
Because just talking about it, it's hearsay at that point.
Yeah, it's a good story, and a lot of people write good stories.
Right. So what I'm going to try to do is steer away from just the stories. I'm going to see what I can find, photographic, video evidence. Push comes to shove, we'll do another Scramble episode and just talk about what the hell's on Reddit. That's actually seemed to be a pretty good episode. Some of our most popular video, I think our second most popular video on YouTube right now is our Scramble episode, and that was thrown together in 15 minutes. So I thought we did pretty good. But we'll shoot for something ghostly, some ghostly happenings next week. Do you have anything you want to add before we wrap it up?
No, just, everybody, keep your eyes open, see what you can see. And I think there's always interesting stuff out there. And, I've had my fair share, and I know you have too.
Yeah.
So, keep listening, and, just remember to, follow us.
Beyond the Shadows.
All right.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
A creature like that, how would it ever die?
And this monster starts running right at me.
Annihilated by nuclear bombs.
Beast is not dead. I put 4 bullets into him.
Oh, you're crazy.
But I saw that monster too. All I want is for someone to believe me.
Contaminated.
Face. Horrible. Look like it would scare you to death.
All right, let's get to work.
Beyond the Shadows.